All right, well, let's get started. So again, welcome everyone to our West Suburban Trails webinar. We are excited to have you here today to hear about what's going on in DuPage County and surrounding counties. So this webinar is being recorded today, so we'll be sure to share the slides and the recording with you afterwards. And if you have any questions during the webinar for our panelists, please add them to the Q&A box, and we'll address those questions at the end of the webinar. Closed captioning is available if you need it, and you can find that in your menu. And then also stay tuned for future trail webinars. This is part of a series, so we've had 3 other webinars so far, one on the Des Plaines River Trail, one on South Chicago trails, and one on South Suburban trails, and we're hoping to get another one organized about North Suburban trails. So please stay tuned and check out those previous webinars if you're interested. So I'm going to turn it over to my colleague Alex to talk a little bit more about what we'll be hearing about today.
Thanks, Maggie. So this is just a quick map of just to orient everybody with the trails that we'll be speaking about today. So from looking at the first trail, the East Branch DuPage River Trail, that is a planned trail. So it is still not fully built out, but that is what Ginger will be speaking about later on. And that is the blue one. And then you have the Illinois Prairie Path, which is the largest trail that we have, and it has 5 different stretches that goes through different municipalities as well. And then we have the Great Western Trail, which is on green, which is 2 segments currently right now, split up, and you can see that also the East DuPage River Trail would be a connection between the Great Western Trail and the Illinois Prairie Path. Next slide. Yep. So the speakers that we have are Ginger from the Friends of the East DuPage River Trail, and then for the East DuPage River Trail, it is a planned 28 mile from north to south connection through central DuPage County. There has been some engineering planning for a 4-mile segment from between the Great Western Trail and the Illinois Prairie Path and Butterfly Road that are currently underway. So I mentioned this will connect to the Illinois Prairie Path and the Great Western Trail. And the Illinois Prairie Path is one of the nation's first rails to trails projects in the 1960s. So it is about 61 miles long that stretches between different municipalities and gets you from Maywood, Wheaton, Elgin, Aurora, Geneva, and Batavia. And then the Great Western Trail is, as I mentioned, it's broken into 2 segments that are 18 miles between St. Charles and the King County, and then in Sycamore and DeKalb as well. That would stretch is 12 miles. And then to finish it off, we have Sid Kenyon from the DuPage County, who will be speaking on the strategies and standards to make it more safe and accessible in the county. And with that, I will kick it off to Ginger to start it off.
Okay, hi everybody. I'm Ginger Wheeler. I'm the president of the advocacy group called the Friends of the East Branch DuPage River Trail. I can flip the slide, Maggie. So we're an advocacy group. The East Branch DuPage River Trail is a long planned but never fully funded or developed project by DuPage County. It was planned, I think, back in the late 1980s. They did some engineering work in the 90s and have published a document in 2004, the county did, about what it could look like and some of the projected costs back then in 2004. I got involved in 2014, noting that I knew about it, but I didn't know what was going on with it or when it was going to be projected to be completed. So asking around, I found Active Transportation Alliance. Active Trans hosted a really awesome meeting in 2017 at the Elmhurst Library. I showed up, and my friend and partner in crime, Libby Ahern, also showed up, and we happened to be sitting next to each other. We live near each other. We're both there for the same reason, to find out how we could make the East Branch DuPage River Trail actually a reality. The result is a website at eastbranchtrail.org. Ooh, I got to fix that slide, I think. We have a Facebook group you can find and join called the Trail Between, because this trail is between a lot of different parks and communities, but it's sort of in no man's land. It's not really in anybody's community. It's between a lot of different jurisdictions. We encourage people to join our mailing list. We can keep you informed on what's happening. And our sole reason for being at this point is to raise awareness, be advocates for this trail, and get people to sign our petition. That is all we do. And then every once in a while, we'll go to meetings, we'll host events, and we'll try to urge our county officials and staff to build our trail. We can progress on. So if you want to know where the trail is going to be, the answer is roughly east or west of I-355 between villages of Glen Ellen and Lombard, connecting, it's envisioned to bisect the whole county, north to south. But our group, that's an elephant. We're trying to figure out how do you eat an elephant, and we're eating it one bite at a time. So our group is focusing on the area between the, I don't know if you can see my mouse here. Can you see my mouse? Between the Great Western Trail up here and the Illinois Prairie Path. Yeah. And then these are some projected areas where we might have this trail built. So if I'm going to share my screen, I do have some drone footage I'd like to share to kind of give you guys a sense of where it is or what it could look like. Let's see here. I'm going to do this there. Can you see that okay? So this drone footage shows
Ginger,
Swift Road.
it's not showing yet.
Oh, I didn't do it yet. Okay, there. Now can you see it?
Yeah.
Okay, so this drone footage shows Swift Road and the Great Western Trail. This is where the Great Western Trail crosses. This trail that runs alongside Swift Road is actually part of the built East Branch DuPage River Trail. Now the river is over here. You can't see it in this picture, but this over here is Churchill Woods Forest Preserve. And there's a trail right here that goes into Churchill Woods Forest Preserve. You actually cannot see the trail from this spot. If you're riding by here on the Great Western Trail, you cannot really tell there's a trail over here. You have to know, if that makes any sense. You really can't see through this parking lot. It's a parking lot where a bunch of semis will camp out at night and things like that. I guess it's sort of a trailhead parking lot for this Great Western Trail. But I think some signage here or here, pointing people over here would be really awesome. And once you get down in here, this trail exists through Churchill Woods Forest Preserve, and you can ride it all the way through the Forest Preserve. It ends over here. Right here, that's where it ends, but it's projected to keep going at some point in the future. It can cross over, there's a tunnel, it already exists, and so forth. So we want to try to encourage people to get over here on the south side of St. Charles Road, and then extending the trail on. It just goes all the way. I've got this drone footage if anybody's interested in seeing it, but I don't want to take up too much of your time. So I'm going to stop sharing now. Pause share and oh geez, how do I stop share? There we go. So I stopped the share so you can put the slides back on, Maggie. So that's kind of a general sense of where it is and where it's going to go. This whole area is really just sort of governed by a bunch of different organizations. And the hardest part about getting this done is getting all these organizations who have decision-making power. They're almost all public or quasi-public organizations like Commonwealth Edison or IDOT, as well as different parks and the Forest Preserve of DuPage County and so forth, but it's getting them all at the table and making decisions. Nobody's really said they're against this project. Everybody seems to be for it, except for a few people. I'll get to that if you want to move ahead. So like I said, we started in 2017. We started with a petition, quickly got traction, quickly got some of these organizations you see on this slide here together. In the fall of 2018, DuPage County Department of Transportation convened a steering committee, and they chose Christopher Burke Engineering to lead what we call a pre-phase 1 study. That was basically getting everybody on the table. So that was really, really positive. Thank you so much to DuPage County and a couple of our leaders at the that were board members, elected board members, who made that happen. As an advocacy group, we supported it by attending the meeting, but we also were out there in the public. We did a lot of tabling, making people aware that this was happening and that we had this petition. We're always asking people to sign our petition. You can move forward. So again, tabling, getting signs out, getting promotions out. In the summer of 2021, we got a congressional earmark. It got stripped out of the Senate bill, but it did finally get put back in. And we got some budgeting at DuPage County. So many huge thanks to DuPage County for the budgeting. You can go forward, Maggie. And then by the summer of 2022, we knew we were going to get a federal grant in the amount of $1.2 million that the county would then match, an 80-20 match. This is how these projects get built, with an 80% federal match to a 20% local match. That happened, and we are a year and almost a half later still waiting to get the funds, but we know that they're coming. And we had just last month, if you want to go forward, a symbolic check handover. So we had our congressman there. He did a symbolic check handover. It generated some coverage in the Daily Herald on the front page on the 21st. And then we got an endorsement on Tuesday from the Daily Herald saying this decades in the making trail is worth pursuing, which I thought was huge. So we're really excited about that. That's a big win for us, big success. And hopefully our county board members have all seen this article and know about it, know about the Daily Herald's recommendation and endorsement. And we keep going, I guess. What do we have? Those are some successes. What are our challenges? Our challenges are getting the money in. And then once it is in, tracking it, making sure it's going where the county said it would go. We need to be watchdogs. We need to continue to advocate. We need to continue keeping our supporters engaged. We're a small group of about 10 people, our friends group. We don't have memberships. We're not asking people for money. We are just asking people to sign our petition. That's it. That's all we have. That's our ammunition to keep this project moving forward. Getting supporters, keeping them engaged. People are so confused by this project. They think it's already built. They think they've ridden on it. It's so hard to get the word out. And then we get some opposition, and the opposition puts out misinformation and purposefully scares people. And then we have to continue to address these concerns. It's really, really challenging. Even with this article that you see here on this picture appeared in the Glen Ellen, the Village of Glen Ellen's newsletter. They mail out to every resident. We had our county chairman, Deb Conroy, do a speech before the check handover a couple weeks ago, stating the facts. Even though these elected officials, these official government organizations are putting the facts out there, there's still a lot of misinformation. So all we can do is raise more awareness, ask people to sign our petition. If you want to go more, Maggie, on the slides. And we're asking you to do that as well. So anytime, what we need help from is people signing our petition. If you haven't signed it, sign it. If you know someone who hasn't signed it, ask them to sign it. You can get it at eastbranchtrail.org. We ask people to continue to talk to our elected officials. Elected officials are often, or the county governments are often putting out, not just county, but every local government, the Glen Ellen, Lombard, the park districts, anything that's a elected governmental body is putting out surveys all the time. They're always asking for feedback. We ask people, fill out the surveys, mention East Branch Trail. We ask people, if you run into an elected official at any level on your city council, on your park district, talk about the trail, mention it, share it on your socials with your friends and family. That's the only way we can really keep the pressure on to make this thing happen. We also will attend public meetings. You can always attend public meetings. You can write notes before the DuPage County board meetings and say stuff in your note about the trail, why you think it's a good idea. So everyone kind of has to join in and advocate for this together, really. Do you want to forward it ahead, Maggie? So here we go, how you can help build the trail. Spread the word. Contact your elected representatives. Join our Facebook group. And if you join the Facebook group, it's free and you're in. We don't have a membership fee or anything like that. It's just a free membership, and not even a membership really. It's just joining our Facebook group, and then we will try to keep you up to date. And every once in a while, we're going to be sending out emails. Not that often, maybe once a month. I send an email out to just keep people up to date. And I think that's it. Is that the end of mine? That's the last slide. Yeah.
Yeah, well, thank you, Ginger.
Are we doing Q&A or is that coming at the end?
Yeah, we'll do that at the end. And yeah, please
hope that wasn't too long.
Put any questions you have in the Q&A for Ginger, and we'll be sure to send out all of these links. And we highly, highly encourage you to support what they're doing and spread the word, because as Ginger said, that it makes a huge difference. So all of you on this webinar, if you're watching the recording, please get involved. So with that, I would like to now turn it over to our next speaker, Ken McClurg from the Illinois Prairie Path. So thanks, Ken, for being here. So I'll let you take it from here.
Hey, thanks, Maggie. Thanks, Alex. Thanks to the Active Transportation Alliance. Really appreciate this opportunity. So as Ginger mentioned, the East Branch DuPage River Trail is very much in a different phase than the Illinois Prairie Path. As you can see in the bottom left corner, we're celebrating our 60-year anniversary this year. That wasn't actually the year that we were incorporated, but that was basically the year that the whole movement got momentum for changing it from a railway to a nature trail. So what I want to cover here today, I want to tell you a little bit more about the trail, some about our organization, and kind of like what Ginger covered, ways that you can help to support our mission, which is going to be a little different flavor, of course, than the East Branch DuPage River Trail because of where we're at, maturity of the trail. Okay, good. So here's Alex showed a similar map, basically just very high level. The center of the path is in Wheaton. And basically, if you go 15-ish miles east, you're in Maywood. If you go 15-ish miles northwest, you're in Elgin. 15-ish miles southwest, you're in Aurora. And off of the Aurora and the Elgin branches, you do have spurs to get to Batavia and Geneva. So in total, it comes to 61.5 miles. That's why sometimes you'll see it as 61, sometimes you'll see it as 62, but it's a long trail. I've personally been on all the miles, never all of it on one day, but one of these days I'll get to that. But anyway, we'd like to consider the Prairie Path to really be the backbone of all the local trail networks. So anytime there's an opportunity like the East Branch DuPage River Trail, anything that we can do, say with our, we have membership. We do have paid members. And one of the things that does for us is it gives us a stronger advocacy voice. We do have roughly 850 members. So that does hold some weight when we do want to help to get things done, whether it's, making safety improvements to a crossing, putting in additional amenities and things like that. We generally don't control those kind of things, but we can certainly influence those things, and we can provide some limited amount of funding. And so just a very brief bit of the history. Before it was the Illinois Prairie Path, it was the Chicago, Aurora, and Elgin Railroad, which was in business from the early 1900s, went out of business in the late 1950s, and the railway was abandoned in 1961. So it was very key that May Watts and many other founders really took advantage of this. They saw the opportunity. They saw it was abandoned railway, and they knew if they didn't act quickly, that the land was going to be used for something. It was just gradually going to get gobbled up for commercial reasons, residential reasons. And next thing you know, this wonderful 60-mile right of way would just soon be gone. So basically, May Watts sent a letter to the editor of the Tribune. They published her letter, and that basically started raising awareness. It started raising enthusiasm. They did a lot of talks, and basically they're doing a lot of the same things probably that the East Branch DuPage River Trail is doing now. You know, getting all the right people involved so that that land could be acquired and so it'd be designated as a nature trail. So that's what happened in '63. The momentum started, and it really did serve as a blueprint since it was one of the first rails to trails conversions. It served as a blueprint for so many other rails to trails conversions. So we're proud of that, even though obviously all of our current board members, we didn't have anything directly to do with that. And again, just a couple things about, you know, back in the early days, the land was actually leased by the Prairie Path. So the Prairie Path organization itself really did have a whole lot more control in terms of doing all the things you need to do to put in a trail. That was basically all done by volunteers and the founders. And so you can see some of the things on the screen here. It was an abandoned railway. So guess what? People use that as a dumping ground. So you had to remove all the railway things that were there intentionally, all the debris that was left there by people that did unauthorized dumping. And then once you get that done, you can start putting in the timbers for the trail. You can start laying the trail surface. You can start putting in bridges. And the neat thing is that was really done by volunteers. And actually, if you look at the picture, I like the one here in the top right corner. You can see that these aren't all union workers or anything. I think we got some 12-year-old kids out there. Hopefully everything was done in a pretty safe way, but in any case, it was fantastic that these people had the passion and they took the initiative to actually literally put in the trail. And one of the biggest accomplishments in basically at mile marker 0, that's, like I said, the center of where the three main branches come together. As many of you probably know, there's the bridge that goes north from mile marker 0. And this picture isn't very big, but for many years, that bridge, that was just a leftover relic from the railway. And basically, there was no way to actually get to the bridge or get from the bridge. It was basically just sitting on concrete piers, being unused. Kids would go out there and play on it and that. But so the volunteer said, you know what, we can use that bridge as part of our path because the path needs to get over these other railroad tracks. And so basically, the volunteers, they designed and built the spans that would actually get you to the bridge. And they refurbished the bridge itself, including a lot of weld work and things like that. And that was all done by, or almost entirely done by volunteers, labor, with donated materials and donated equipment. So it was, that's the thing that really sets the Prairie Path apart. It was all volunteer based, not all volunteer, but primarily volunteer based. And then all of that work culminates in, you know, what you have now, which is, you know, just a wonderful trail and a nice hill with a maintained prairie on both sides. Just a little bit more about our organization. We are called the Illinois Prairie Path Corporation. We really have in the 80s, we no longer leased the land. That was just strictly owned by DuPage County. So at that point, the Prairie Path organization really did give up, you know, direct control of things that would happen on the path. And so, as many of you know, the path, at least in DuPage County, is owned by DuPage County. And so in terms of the heavy lifting that needs to be done, again, we get involved in the advocacy, we get involved in planning some of the projects, especially some of the smaller projects, but we really have morphed into a Friends of organization starting in the 80s. But this is our mission, as you can see there on the screen. I won't read that to you. And so what do? We advocate, we partner, and we improve. I've just got a couple examples of each one of those, and these are just one of many examples, just to give you a flavor. Ralph DeFebo, I believe, is also on the call. He spoke in the last webinar. He's been working on an extension of the Prairie Path East. And basically, he's been working on that with a group of folks for several years. Ralph, earlier this year, joined the Illinois Prairie Path as a board member. So that just like to believe that that helps the efforts in terms of giving him a stronger voice, giving him more ammunition for getting these things done. But Ralph is still leading the way in terms of expanding the trail to get another mile out of it, basically to move it from First Avenue to the CTA Blue Line. And Ralph, with the rest of the board support, it's very exciting because there's continued momentum there. The initial phase funding has been approved, and so that's always good when the funding's going towards it. So we continue to help out on that. Advocate, we talked about the East Branch DuPage River Trail. We'd like nothing more than to see that trail go in. So we partner with those with Ginger and the rest of our team as much as we can. They participated in our 60-year anniversary celebration. They'll be one of our keynote speakers at our November 5th annual meeting. Some of the other things that we do, Sid's going to talk about the trails plan. So we are active participants in the DuPage County and the Kane County trail plans. And this is another initiative that Ralph is actually very closely involved in, and another board member, Vito, who also focuses on the Cook County side. A proposed reroute of the Prairie Path through Hillside. There's a lot of considerations, and so those guys are doing a wonderful job, you know, being the voice of the Prairie Path in terms of what's a logical route and what's a safe way to get through there. And speaking of safety, we put out safety guidelines, and one of those was Illinois Prairie Path recommendations on e-bikes. A lot of that focused on what speeds people should travel at and things like that. So again, just to give you a flavor of some of the things that we can advocate for. And this is the busiest slide that I've got, but just to tell you that we can't do much without having partners. We have partners with the counties, municipalities, corporations, the media, small businesses, and like-minded not-for-profits. All of these are basically recent Facebook posts that we put out there. You know, we promote the activities of our partners, you know, especially obviously if it's something that's going to be of interest to Prairie Path users. That's the criteria we use. So we promote bike rides, we promote festivals. This was actually the Daily Herald article that was put together, and they highlighted the spring trail cleanup that we do. But just again, to give you a flavor of what we do partnership-wise. This was a recent event that worked out really well. And again, our partners on that were primarily the Glen Ellen Park District, and again, the Friends of the East Branch DuPage River Trail, and we had small businesses out there. But anyway, we had a wonderful celebration last month with food, music, games, raffles, info tables, and we did bike tours. We focused on the past because there are still a lot of CA&E artifacts along the Prairie Path that people wouldn't know. When we were preparing for these bike tours, I was one of the tour leaders, and I learned a lot about these relics that were there that I'd ridden past hundreds of times and didn't know they were there. And so we shared that with people on these bike tours, and they at least acted fascinated, but I think they actually were pretty interested in that. We took them past Volunteer Bridge. I told you that story. Took them past Founders Park. We talked about the present day things, nearby trails and parks, and we talked about the future, which is we brought everybody to the point where the East Branch DuPage River Trail would intersect the Prairie Path. So fun event that we did. We're receptive to doing more of that. We also improve. I think many of you know about the wonderful new trailhead that went in Warrenville. The IPPC was involved in the planning, and we were involved financially in this. We did not lead the efforts, but we are certainly one of the players. So if you haven't seen that, that's a wonderful trailhead. It's great that they got the concrete showing the rails, basically where the rails went through. It actually looks pretty authentic. You got the council circle, and there's actually some information there about the history of the path and our founders as well. So if you haven't been there, I encourage you to do that. One other example, this is a Cook County example again, but there's a lot going on in Cook County. The village of Bellwood is holding community engagement meetings. and we're very much involved in those. And when I say we, it is primarily Ralph who's on the call, and Vito as well, with the support of the rest of the board. But some of the big projects that may be happening are, putting in a forest. This is a special type of forest that grows quickly and gives you dense trees. That's an exciting project. And also in Bellwood, you've got this large concrete wall with nothing on it. So we're talking about, putting a mural up, putting up some artwork, just something to beautify the trail. So again, just an example of some of the things that we advocate for. And some of the smaller things that we do, put in amenities. Educational sign, you may have seen plenty of those around the path. We were responsible for getting those put in. Over here to the right, and that's one of my fellow board members, where we're installing one of these 100-pound mile marker posts. There was missing mile marker posts. We put in replacement ones. We replaced signs on a lot of them. That's still an ongoing project, just because we are a smallish group and we only have so much physical labor and we all have day jobs, but we're happy to do those things to add to the experience for Prairie Path users. We've done drinking fountains and kiosk display cases, and the list goes on and on for those smaller amenities. These are the type of things that the membership dues pay for. Obviously, that the membership dues aren't going to pay for a new bridge. They're not going to pay for a reconfigured crossing and that. That's basically where you get into the county and IDOT and organizations like that we have to work with. So there's lots of people involved in the path. Here's just a list of them. What's the common bond from everybody, whether it's our board, everybody else? It's really, there's so many people that are passionate about the trail. It's not just our trail, it's the area trails. But you see that passion, and that's actually what keeps us motivated to do what we do. Just got a couple of quick examples of that. 400 plus volunteers for our spring cleanup. That's fantastic. We just love that many people care and we get that many people to come out. So we've been doing this on an annual basis. It is a collaborative effort between the Prairie Path and the Great Western Trail. And we've already, the date is April 27th for 2024. So we're already starting to get the ball rolling on that. So we love seeing everybody's help, the people who care. This is a fun story. 2 years ago, David and Deanna McDonald reached out to us. David's from Glen Ellen, Deanna's from Elmhurst. And when they were dating, it was literally the Prairie Path that connected the two of them. So as part of their relationship, they actually figured that the Prairie Path was key to being the connection between the two of them and fostering their relationship. So we were kind of surprised that they felt that strongly about it, but we thought that was wonderful. They actually held a Prairie Path themed wedding. Down here in the bottom left, they actually used one of our kiosk maps that we donated. That was their guest registry. Everybody signed a Prairie Path map. And so they gave out patches and other trinkets to all their members. And this photo you can see here, they took their wedding pictures on the Prairie Path. It's just really fun to see that people care that much about the Prairie Path and they've got so many special memories tied to it. I won't get into the details of this one. This is kind of a long story too, but anyway, it was a father and son. They actually worked on the rehab of Volunteer Bridge in the 80s, and they were Glen Ellen residents, and so they had deep ties to the Prairie Path. The father had passed away, the families moved out of the area, but they had deep enough ties to the Prairie Path, and it was special to them that they came back here and they held a memorial ceremony on the path, including a tribute ride. So again, it's wonderful to see how much people feel the connections to the Prairie Path. And just one other quick story. Aiden was a high school student. He's now in college, but anyway, he wanted to be on the soccer team. That didn't work out. He tried real hard to get on the cross country team. He did all kinds of training. He did all his training on the Prairie Path, and he started developing this connection. He said that without the Prairie Path, I wouldn't have got to the point where I did, where, he was successful in cross country and he started getting some medals and some special recognition. He felt strongly enough that he put together some volunteer efforts to give back to the path. And we get this type of note also. I won't read through this, but this is just from somebody who grew up in the 60s and 70s, used the path all the time. They loved it. They came back all the time, and they're thanking us for what we do. And just about done here. What can everybody do? We'd like everybody to share your passion, because you probably wouldn't be in this meeting if you didn't have passion for the trails. So you could become a member of our organization. More members gives us a stronger advocacy voice. And like I said, we do use those dues to pay for some of those things I mentioned. We'd love to see you volunteer at IPP events and partner events. Our website, ipp.org, we've got a calendaring function, and you'll see lots of events from partner organizations, and we'd love to see you support them as well as us. We've got monthly board meetings. Those are open to the public. Just let us know that you'd like to speak, and we'll get you on the agenda. And also, our annual meeting is on the 5th. We'd love to see people show up for that. We're always receptive to having more board members. We can always use some fresh ideas and diverse backgrounds. And advocate for trails. Talk to your local municipalities, councils, talk to your neighbors for the things that are important relative to expansion, connectivity, safety, and bottom line, use the trails. It's good for your health, it's good for the environment, and it's good for the local economy. And with that, here's my plug for everybody showing up to our November 5th annual meeting, which is going to be in Wheaton, downtown Wheaton at the Mary Lubko Center. And that's really all I had. And I probably used more than 10 minutes, so I should turn it over. But thank you.
All right. Thanks so much, Ken. And yeah, save the date November 5th and save the date for April 27th. Is that right? That's your cleanup date?
Yes.
For next year. But no, thank you so much. Illinois Prairie Path is we're so lucky to have this trail in our region. And I loved all the stories you shared. It clearly means a lot to a lot of people, and hope you can all get involved and attend some upcoming events. So thank you, Ken. And next up, we have Don there. I see Don there from Friends of the Great Western Trail. So Don, I'll let you take it from here. I'll pull up your first slide here and just let me know when you want to change slides.
Okay, thank you. And thank you to everybody for taking the time. I put up May Watt's photo because without her, we wouldn't have any of this. And she gets all the credit, really. So that's, I put 1963 as a benchmark. And then in 1980s, related to the success of the Prairie Path, DuPage County needed a right-of-way for the Lake Michigan water pipes. And one of the options for an east-west right-of-way would have been to tear up the Prairie Path to lay these big pipes. But the Prairie Path was so beloved by then, they looked for another route, and the abandoned right-of-way, the Great Western Railway, was available because the Chicago Northwestern had bought them out, and the right-of-way was there. So DuPage County bought that abandoned right-of-way. They laid the pipes down, and then there was the opportunity for the Great Western Trail, which started, we used 1991. You could say 90 to 92, but stake in the ground we have is 91. I live nearby in Glendale Heights, and with all due respect to the Prairie Path, which of course I have much respect for, the Great Western Trail was not given its due. There was, people even called it the Prairie Path, and they thought, oh, that's the Prairie Path. Well, the Great Western Trail wasn't getting the amenities, that it needed some attention. So I started the Friends of the Great Western Trails, which is all volunteer. There's no membership or monies that we ask people to put forth. We just want your time for the cleanups. And we had our very first cleanup in 95, attended by a board member, Roger Kotecki, and then myself and a couple friends. And we even had an article in the Tribune about it. I have it somewhere, because they never throw anything away. So I'm sure I'll find it. And the Elmhurst Bicycle Club was cleaning the trail as well. So that was great. In the future, really is, we need to work together. And in fact, I was invited to join the Prairie Path Board for 9 years and served as president for 7. So we've worked together for many years, and in the future, we really need to move forward, and we'll talk about that in the next slide. Maggie, if we can get another slide. There you go. Thank you. So there are many groups and people to thank. I like this photo because it shows that the level of participation. We have Deb Conroy, who's the chairperson of DuPage, couldn't attend. She was still state rep at the time, was at Springfield, but she had representatives. The sheriff is on the top right, his wife Cindy, son Colin, and then we have the president of the DuPage County Forest Preserve District came out with his family and a friend Angelo, and that was in 2022. So it's great. That was at the combination Great Western Trail Illinois Prairie Path route in West Chicago. So it's great to get everybody involved, and I'm going to try and thank other people here. So let's see if I can get through this. Maggie and Alex, certainly from the ATA for your help. Dave Simmons from Ride, Illinois. Ken and Dennis and the IPP board certainly has always been helpful. Dave Gorman from the village of Lombard has done fantastic work for many years. The Kane County Forest Preserve District, not represented here, but really has done a great job with the trails, both the Fox River Trail, the connecting trails to the Prairie Path, and the Great Western Trail that goes, starts in St. Charles and goes west. City of Sycamore, especially the Lions Club. And I want to give special recognition to Ginger Wheeler for her outstanding work, because you know, the EBT will make the Great Western Trail and the Illinois Prairie Path better. And people don't talk about that, but it really will be. The Boy Scouts, the Girl Scouts, the Lions Clubs. Special thank you to DuPage County Board Member Greg Schwarzy for taking interest in making the Great Western Trail crossing at County Farm Road safer. And speaking of DuPage County, I just want to say, and I try to say as often as possible, we're really lucky to have this trails coordinator, Sid Kenyon. He's the best, and hopefully he'll be around for a long time. So the next slide, please. Okay, communication. I encourage everybody, as both Ginger and Ken have done, talk to elected officials in your areas of concern. Attend a meeting and introduce yourself. You'll be pleasantly surprised by their welcoming response. And what I tell people is, remember the age-old sales adage, people want to be wanted. So talk to them. I post 2 photos. We have Mayor Quasman from West Chicago and Mayor Mueller from Lombard. Those guys were fantastic. Unfortunately, they both have passed, but you know, Mayor Gresk and Wheaton and other folks have been wonderful leaders. But those 2 guys were always, I was always pleasantly surprised to get a call back the same day from both of them. So now the next one. I'm trying to get past this. I got too much history, so I'm trying to get through this. So we've got the DuPage Great Western route on the left and the St. Charles to Sycamore on the right. I guess it should be opposite if I was geographically correct, but there's a lot of opportunity there, and Kane County and St. Charles are starting an eastward expansion from the Leroy Oaks Forest Preserve to Randall Road, so that'll be nice. We still need an on-the-road route to be mapped with signs connecting the DuPage County Great Western section to the Kane County Great Western section, and that can be done easily through St. Charles, and St. Charles is a great city to travel through, with a great many amenities and restaurants and bars and all kinds of things. So hopefully we're going to get that done. And I also wanted to say that we need a map. One of the things that I think is overlooked is the DuPage County Forest Preserve District alone has 166 miles. And then we have many more miles that is owned and managed by the DuPage County Division of Transportation. But I have yet to see a combined map. And maybe somebody could say, oh, Don, there is one, and here it is. But I've talked to both Chairperson Deb Conroy and the DuPage County Forest Preserve President Daniel Hebriard and saying we really need, let's take full advantage of all these trails. And one way is to have an interactive or combined map of everything. So hopefully we'll get that accomplished soon. And then the last slide, Maggie, is our big event every year, and that is to get people out to the trails. As Ken said, you know, hundreds of people show up. Boy Scout groups, Pokemon groups. I still don't know what Pokemon is, but Carroll Stream Pokemon group went out in the snow one year and cleaned the trail. So there's everything you need to know. Let's get people, put it on your calendar. Dave Gorman is coordinating the Lombard work, and there's a special site for the DuPage County trail volunteers, be it the Great Western or the Prairie Path. And we want you to sign up over there. That's it. I try to get it done as quick as possible.
Great. Thank you so much, Don.
Thank
We
you
appreciate
for everything.
Yeah, all of your work on the Great Western Trail and your collaborations with everyone. And we'll be sure to get the word out about this event, your cleanup event coming up next spring. So thank you. And finally, we've got Sid Kenyon from DuPage County to talk about their trails plan. And Sid, you can feel free to take over the slides.
Perfect. Thank you, Maggie. First of all, I want to thank everybody on the call here for joining us. Thank you guys for attending this webinar today. Thank you to the panelists as well. I work with Ginger, Ken, and Don on a weekly, if not often a daily basis, and appreciate their insights. I'm a long-term West Suburbanite, so I've spent a lot of time on the trails that we're talking about today. Couple of notes about the panelists. Ginger and I have participated in those steering committee meetings together. Don't know if you saw a guy in a lime green shirt, but that was me in the steering committee pictures. And so she and Libby and Steve run the Friends of the East branch. And Steve brought with him at our last county board meeting 3 stacks of petitions that were 7,000 thick. And so I told him, if you're intending to send a message received. Well done. With regards to Ken, you know, again, I work with him on a weekly and a daily basis. That annual cleanup, I don't think it's possible to even oversell how much of a big deal it is. We missed it dearly in 2020 due to COVID because people couldn't work together closely. And so the cleanup was delayed that year, and we really missed it. We saw the impact of that annual cleanup. 400 people really is unbelievable, the amount of participation, and the elected officials that participate in that cleanup every year. You know, and Don, I work with him on a weekly basis, and he is part of a network that is not to be underestimated. He knows many people around the county, has many friends, and so, you know, if you're looking for contacts to try to make as much of an impact as you can, I think these are 3 good people to talk to. So with that, I want to launch into my section of the presentation. I want to make sure we leave some time to answer some questions. So let's go ahead and jump right in. The DuPage Trails Plan is a plan for the maintenance and operations of the existing trail network. We are focused on the 3 trails that the county is most involved in. That would be the Prairie Path, the Great Western Trail, and the Southern DuPage Regional Trail. This is representative of nearly 100 miles of regional trail, of which about 60 of it is under DuPage County direct maintenance jurisdiction. We have maintenance agreements with partners throughout the county And we also work with volunteers that continue to help us make the trails great. There are 8 chapters in this plan, and I won't go through the list, but just to show you kind of the breadth of the subject matter that we include here. And so we'll launch into these a little bit. I'm not going to spend too much time talking about the recommendations today, because I think this group might be more interested in the meat and potatoes of the plan. So we'll talk about that in this presentation. Our vision and our purpose, I just want to recognize that, you know, we have a vision statement as part of the plan. Our purpose is to apply these guidelines to our trail network that DuPage County is either the owner, the operator, or the maintainer of. And our audience is everybody. It's ourselves, the county. These are recommendations for us to follow up on. Partner agencies, which could be municipalities, other counties, our volunteer partners, and the public. Folks like yourselves that are on the call today. This is for everybody. We did a significant survey engagement effort through our project. I'm pleased to say that we got 3,100 total responses. One round we had 2,300, another round we had 800. Loved the feedback that we got. We'll talk a little bit about that today during the presentation, but I think some of the main things to take away are there are reasons that people use the trails that have been validated. They like to work out. They like to experience nature. People have priorities of trail etiquette that they want to see us focus on. And so we'll talk about that a little bit in this presentation. I think what was also interesting to find were some of the preferences that the public wanted us to follow up on as far as innovative ways to use those trail spaces. This is our trail, typically. We have the physical trail space. We have a buffer zone that's about 6 feet wide. That's where we place all our signs and other various appurtenances. And the tree protection zone, which throughout the rail trail network is most of what's beyond those 6 feet. The remainder of the trail right-of-way could be a number of things. We share that right-of-way with ComEd primarily, as well as other utilities. And so sometimes it might look a little bit different. We'll talk about that in a little bit. We have a network of dozens and dozens of trail crossings. What we wanted to do as part of this plan is to establish a guide for how we enhance those trail crossings, because safety is very important to us with all the at-grade crossings that we have. And so this list is really just intended to give you guys a general understanding of all the guidance and the factors that we looked at from a professional standpoint to generate a list of recommended enhancements. We have that list as part of the plan, and we talk about recommended and candidate infrastructure that the DOT will consider at various crossings. But these factors, I think, are most important. We look at the configuration type, because we have anything from 2-lane or less than that, even urban configurations, all the way to 4 lanes without a median. We have grade separated crossings as well throughout our network. We look at all the average annual daily traffic categories, and we consider speed limits, which are an ordinance, but at the same time, that speed limit means something too from a safety perspective. So we tried to really incorporate as much of the breadth of guidance as we possibly could to identify candidate crossing infrastructure. When it comes to signage and wayfinding, we wanted to ask people about how they felt about the way that we sign the system, how we allow people to navigate. And so the things that I've circled here are really just to direct your attention to the fact that most people are interested in getting to other trails. I think for a lot of folks on this call, that's a dumb moment. But when you're talking to some of us that are in the industry, we really want to think about what are the things that people really want to get to. Are they thinking about other municipalities? Are they thinking about public amenities? Are they thinking about natural features? And so it was interesting to see that via our surveys, people ranked other trails, parks and preserves, and natural features towards the top. Signage at other trails also was important, probably a dumb moment for the people on this call too. But again, that placement, that type signage and location is important to us. And so it's good to know that that's what the public supports. And finally, the type of signage is important to us, because we know folks tend to like more information, but we want to find the best way to present that level of detail in a consistent, consolidated way. And so that high intensity signage that we're talking about, that's like a kiosk. That's like a big map. That's a lot of information. And I think most people like less. You know, to them, less is more. They want to know what trail they're on. They want to be reminded of it every so often, and they want to see signage about other trails as they come up. So next we're going to talk about our signage. We have a logo that's on my chest here that really looks a lot like these circles. There's the braided exterior and then the logos within them. These logos that we're proposing are only going to be on our signs. We are not proposing to change the logos for existing volunteer groups. And I want to make that very clear to the folks on this call because we respect that. But we want to have a system that we and our partners can use for wayfinding that not only complies with FHWA and MUTCD standards, but also gives trail users a consistent experience so that they know what trail they're on and are reminded regularly, not too often, because we know that folks don't want signs in their face all the time. We don't want to create sign pollution, but we want to allow for our system to be signed in a way that's consistent. I also want to point out that the Southern DuPage Regional Trail is something that we'll be working with our partners on, because I think one of the issues that we have come upon for Southern DuPage is that those signs are just currently difficult to read, both from the road and on the path. And a lot of the Southern DuPage Regional Trail path mileage is along county highways. And so to us, it's important to come up with something that is consistent with the rest of the county standard. Regarding partnerships, as I said before, we have partners that come in all different shapes and sizes. We have our volunteer groups that are part of the panel today. We have our municipal partners, the Forest Preserve, other counties, other agencies within the county. And so we get lots of inquiries from the public and from other agencies about what to place on the rail trail right-of-way in particular, but also on every trail. So I just wanted to highlight this exercise that we went through. We asked the public to rank these uses that we proposed, and they gave us some other open-ended feedback as well. But we gathered up these particular uses that we were thinking about using the trail space for, and to rank them by what they thought was the best versus the worst use of the space. I've put the red circles on here to identify some that have been frequent questions for us. No surprise, everybody likes having a place to use the bathroom. That Warrenville trailhead that Ken showed you guys, that is actually a really key spot for a 24-hour, all year long bathroom in Warrenville, because west of there, you might not find another bathroom until you get to the Fox River. So it's very important to have these stopping locations. But there were other things that floated to the top as well that I thought were interesting. Bike repair stations, those are things that we get a lot of questions about. But it seems like we have to be more sensitive about where we place those. I was also interested to see that seasonal decorations were something that the public didn't really want to see as much of. And we get a lot of questions about decorations for Halloween, Christmas, other times of the year, 4th of July. And we get a lot of questions from the public about how they can place these decorations on the trail space. And so I think understanding that the public doesn't want to see some things like that was helpful for us. And lastly, things like dog parks. I don't look at this answer about dog parks specifically related to dogs or a space for them. I think it's more that people don't want to see that public space fenced off and dedicated to one specific use. They want to see that the trails remain open, accessible, and useful for as many people as possible. Well, I'm not going to go through this whole list here, but what we did was we identified character zones, which we did it in a previous chapter. We identified character zones, natural, suburban, and downtown zones. And we are recommending locations for the kinds of uses that we looked at as part of this plan. We are also proposing that we align our IGAs with our municipalities. Not all intergovernmental agreements are created the same, but we think that there are some base items that we want to have throughout all of our agreements. And I think that they would support the establishment of not only these character zones, but also the improvements that would be placed within them. So as a steward of the trail space, you know, we have this trail environment and lots of trees and things, and also, unfortunately, lots of invasive species. And so as part of this trail, what we wanted to do was to come up with a plan to tackle that. So we asked people a few different questions, and just to highlight a couple of things here, I thought what was interesting is that people really do appreciate the function of native species on the trail system, of trees and also shrubs. And we were also encouraged to see that about 1 in 5 people who responded to our surveys had actually participated in some kind of a group doing an effort on the trail system. So we came up with a few strategies. The one that I'm going to highlight here is the adaptive management plan, which is something in which the county is going to take the lead on eradication of invasive species and then replanting with trees. We know that people want to see trees because they like the shaded natural environment. And if invasive species are allowed to continue to propagate and grow to maturity, especially buckthorn, they're going to block out the light and the nutrients needed for trees to continue to propagate. DuPage is an oak ecosystem environment, and we want to propagate and support further establishment of native tree species just like oaks. From the trail user experience, just quickly glazing over this, we asked people what are some of the things that might annoy them or might concern them about other people's uses of the trail around them. And I think people are concerned about bicyclists conflicting with pedestrians. I think generally though, another question that we asked, because we get asked this a lot, is do people want to have bike share along the trail system? It sounded like 70% of people said they would probably not use a bike share. And so now we know that most people using the trail system are interested in bringing their own bikes to the space. But we took those responses from the last slide, and we realized that we probably need a new mode restriction ordinance for the network, because ours is currently it's no longer in sync with state law. We are considering discussing e-bikes. We've already discussed that at county board. We're considering discussing how we might restrict the use of certain modes, such as high-speed e-bikes, specifically the Class 3 e-bikes, restricting those from the trail network in order to reduce those conflicts between pedestrians and cyclists. We also realize that our rules of the trail could probably use a refresh. And this is an opportunity for us to engage the Friends of the Great Western Trail and the Illinois Prairie Path for a good model for how to update our rules of the trail and incorporate them into our signage. So that'll be a future effort as well. And finally, with trail maintenance, we have spent a lot of time explaining to folks what our maintenance principles are, and we don't have them currently in a narrative format for the public to digest. So we place that in the plan for you. So whenever somebody has a question about the way that we approach maintenance, we want to make sure that we have some kind of explanation available for folks so that they can digest that. And so we have that in the plan and can help people refer to that in the future. So our next steps for the plan. We are currently right in the midst of the public comment period. That'll be ending November 17th. I will be at the Illinois Prairie Path's annual meeting on November 5th to discuss the plan further and answer questions in person. We are engaging with our stakeholder groups. So that has already included the advisory committee for this plan. I'll be talking with municipalities later this afternoon and talking with the trail users next week. We're expecting that over the winter, we'll have our final review and approval process. And if you guys want to visit the plan yourselves, go to DuPageTrailsPlan.com and download a copy of the plan for yourself. We'd appreciate your comments. Thank you.
All right, thanks so much, Sid. It's this trail plan is like quite an undertaking. It's very impressive, and you've gotten a lot of engagement, which is great, and it's great timing to really get the word out about this public comment period. So we hope you're all able to check it out and provide feedback. And attend the November 5th Illinois Prairie Path annual meeting to hear more from Sid. So thank you so much to our speakers. So I know we're past 1 o'clock. Alex and I are able to stay on for a little longer. So for anyone who's interested, we can go through some of the questions that came up in the question box, and Alex will kind of take that over. And also our speakers, if any of you need to leave, that's totally fine. And we might just be in touch with some questions that are left over. But Alex, would you like to go through some of the questions?
Yeah. Yes. So thank you to our speakers for all the information that they've shared. Greatly appreciate that. I will just filter through some of the questions to get through them quicker. Ginger, this one's going to be towards for you. So I love the idea of connecting the trail through Churchill Woods, one of my favorite places, and going south. What are the engineering and physical obstacles going south of Churchill? And this is another question I'm gonna tie in with it. What type of misinformation are people spreading about the East DuPage River Trail?
Okay, I'm gonna defer that question to Sid Kenyon about Churchill Woods. I mean, so the issue here is that Churchill Woods is a forest preserve property. And so it's really incumbent on the forest preserve to build the trail through Churchill Woods. So I guess I wouldn't defer that to Sid because it's really not his jurisdiction. It's the forest preserve's jurisdiction. But it seems pretty obvious if you get in there, you can ride what they already have built on the north side of St. Charles Road. You can cross underneath St. Charles Road through an existing tunnel, and then you can get onto the south side of Churchill Wood, the south of St. Charles Road, and you can find an existing trail. It's not technically intended for bicycles, but it's a hiking trail, except for it's just not really marked very well. So if you don't know where you're going, you might not know where it is. But if you ever want to know, just reach out, I can show you. And then the second question was the misinformation. And this has been kind of a thorn in my side ever since last June. We held a public information meeting at Butterfield Park District at Butterfield Road and Route 53, and it brought up some people that were opposed to the trail. They put up a website and they were really, really good at rallying their neighbors to come up with some opposition points. However, they weren't completely informed and accurately of what was happening. So misinformation started getting out there. Some of the misinformation was where the trail was planned to go and when it was going to be built and how many trees were going to be cut down. That is all, none of that is planned. There was never any discussions about cutting down even one tree, except maybe buckthorn, like Sid said, getting rid of some of that invasive species. But nevertheless, the thing about trees keeps coming up. People are like, oh, I'm against the trail because I don't want to cut down trees. But I have to reiterate over and over, we have never talked about cutting down not even one single tree to build this trail. I mean, it could happen. I can't say it wouldn't. It's just that there is no plan yet. That's what we have, our $1.2 million from the federal government and our $200,000 from DuPage County allocated for, is to figure out the plan. So now that we have this engineering money, the county is going to lead the plan development. And this is where anybody who has any concerns can get involved and express their opinions on all manner of things related to the trail. But it's really up to DuPage County. This is their project. We're advocates. Our mission is to support what DuPage County is doing on behalf of this project, if that answers your question. So if you're looking for accurate information about East Branch DuPage River Trail and you want to help tamp down some of the misinformation that pops up, whether it's intentionally misinformed or just accidentally misinformed, you can go to the county's websites and look at their websites. They have the most latest, greatest information. And you can attend a county board meeting and ask the county board a question. They'll answer it, and they will answer it with what they know, which is the latest and greatest information.
Thanks, Ginger.
So hopefully that answers the
Sid,
question.
Yeah.
Sid, don't cut down any trees, Sid.
I want to make sure that we have some time to get to some of the other questions, but I'll chime in and add that really the biggest physical obstacle for us is the Union Pacific Railroad crossing. And I could go through the litany of particular pieces of misinformation that have been put out there, but the number of trees that we are cutting down is certainly grossly overestimated, as Don has teased me about just now.
Great, thanks for that, Sid. Another question for the IPP and Great Western Trail, are there any ongoing efforts to pave some of the unpaved sections?
Sid, do you want to take that one?
Sure. We tend to look at that on a case-by-case basis. I think what causes us to investigate whether or not we want to pave a section is how often it's washed out. On a programmatic basis or system-wide basis, no, that's not what we're intending to do. I think the Prairie Path users like the limestone. That also makes it a more mode-inclusive environment. It allows equestrians, bicyclists, and pedestrians to use the space freely. So we want to continue to preserve that for the path users.
Yeah, I'd agree. There's nothing really wrong with the limestone unless you don't have a fender on the back of your bicycle and you get the white skunk stripe up the back and on your helmet. But put on a back fender and you're fine, really. I mean, it's a nice, soft trail to use, and it gets the equestrians out there, and the equestrians are an important group of trail users. They speak up, they have money, and they support the trails. So we want to allow equestrians along with everybody else.
Great. This will be for you, Don. Are there plans to ever connect the two independent segments of the Great Western Trail?
What was that? Connect to what?
The two independent segments of the Great Western Trail, are there plans to connect them?
No, the DuPage Airport would have to be interrupted to do that. So that's not going to happen. What I did mention earlier is that we could do a on the road connection, and Hawthorne has a nice several foot wide paved trail, and West Chicago has some nice street markings. And then you would go along Route 64, which has a real wide shoulder into downtown St. Charles, and then cut up through Randall Road to the Leroy Oaks Forest Preserve at Dean Street. So that's the route that we're going to have to go. We're not. I'm stubborn and crazy, some people think, but I would never think that we could run the trail through this DuPage County Airport.
And then a follow-up question to that, will St. Charles close the gap?
Well, it would be on the road. And I've talked with people at Kane County, and we had a meeting, and I have the on the road route on a piece of paper. I need to engage a amateur cartographer, or whatever the title is, map maker, to help me do a digital version of that so we can promote it.
Great, thanks. Not sure who this one will be for, but if anybody has any updates on Stern Road side path.
I think I know who asked this question, but yeah, so the update right now is that we are working on selecting a consultant to do a phase 1 engineering study of a side path along Stearns. So that is something we are interested in doing. The county is interested in doing. I just don't have an update as far as whether or not we have made that final selection.
Great. Follow-up for you, Sid. Jason Helm is curious on how you manage potential non-response bias to surveys.
So I did see this question, and it's a very good one. Thank you for asking that. That's a tough one, because when we did the surveys for this plan, we were still kind of just emerging from COVID. We started this project, and I failed to share with you guys what the timeline of the project was, but it's been over a 2-year effort now. It'll probably be 2.5 years when it's all said and done. And so when we first began the surveys, that was like July of 2021 into September. And so we were still kind of concerned about doing in-person events and gathering people in a room at that time. So how we handle that non-response bias, unfortunately, one of the drawbacks of doing all online engagement is that non-response bias does become a factor. And so as far as this particular planning effort, that is just an inherent weakness in our public engagement model. Now, that being said, when we do the follow-up work that's recommended as part of the plan, there are these individual efforts that are recommended there. Now that people can engage more freely with the public in person, I'm hoping that we'll be able to try to utilize in-person engagement in order to overcome that.
Great, thanks for that. And then this is a follow-up for you as well. Is the Salt Creek Greenway also part of the DuPage trail plan?
It is not. There is not any mileage of the Salt Creek Greenway Trail that is operated or maintained by DuPage County. Sorry.
Thanks for that. And then this will be open to anybody. Any discussions on designing on-street bike lanes to feed into the trail network?
I might as well lead this off. On the county highway network, no. We typically do not have on-road bicycle facilities. There are a couple, but they are rare. I think with our municipal partners, we've had some discussions. I can tell you that the constituents that represent a lot of the municipalities, excuse me, the residents of the municipalities here in DuPage are interested in any kind of connection to the regional trail network, whether it be off street or on street. And so I'm certainly willing to have any conversation that's brought to my attention about how we can increase that municipal network and make it feed into the trail network more effectively.
Great, thanks for that, Sid. Does anybody want to add to that question?
The more the merrier. We welcome them. It encourages more trail use.
Great, thanks, Don. I've filtered through most of the questions. Thank you, Ginger, for answering those live questions. Currently, we want to thank you to the panelists for sharing information, spending time with us past the lunchtime. Thank you to everybody who joined us, asked questions, very good questions too. That's already answered. Okay, yeah. I mean, thank you, Joe. I said thank you one more time to everybody for joining us. We have gone through the questions.
Thanks, everybody. This was great.
Thank you all.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you so much, Active Transportation Alliance. And thanks everyone, fellow organizers. So many people to thank. It's really hard to thank everybody. It takes so many people, and it's just, yeah, it's great.
Yep.
The whole webinar could just be about like gratitude for everyone's efforts.
Yes.
Because
Seriously could be.
no, but thank you all. We appreciate it. And stay tuned for an email with resources and get involved.
Yes.
All right.
Thanks,
Bye,
Thanks, guys.
everyone.
Sounds great.
Bye.
you.
Have a
Bye,
great
everyone.
afternoon.